If your dungeon ever feels slow, directionless, or flat, it is likely missing one thing: a timer. Few tools elevate a dungeon as reliably as a well-placed timer. Timers incentivize players to move forward. They introduce tension, sharpen pacing, and transform what might otherwise feel static into something dynamic and consequential. To see why this works so well, consider a scene most of us know. In The Lord of the Rings, before entering the mines of Moria, the Fellowship encounters a riddle carved into the door. Speak, friend, and enter. They could have stood there indefinitely, puzzled, debating, and speculating. Instead, the Watcher pushes the pace and tension forward, and once inside the mines, they experience a brief reprieve. Then they are attacked and pursued by goblins, and when that conflict reaches its height, it escalates again, culminating in their flight from a Balrog. That sequence is not accidental. It is structured escalation driven by pressure. Now consider the alternatives. Would that dungeon have been improved if they had remained at the door riddle indefinitely, uncertain and aimlessly passing time? Would it have been improved if they healed endlessly in a safe chamber while discussing ancient lore? And don't get me wrong, this is storytelling. Lore has its value. It makes the world feel alive. Atmosphere does matter, but directionless safety dissolves tension. Would it have been improved if it were merely goblin fight after goblin fight? Timers add continual and varied pressure to keep the dungeon engaging. Timers add tension, heighten excitement, elevate what you have prepared, eliminate dead time, force difficult choices and meaningful sacrifice, and reinforce the possibility of failure. Different systems support timers in different ways. At Hero Fables, we make them visible and explicit. When something is unfolding, the dungeon master describes or hints at the developing situation. Simultaneously, a die is placed clearly on the mat beside the room difficulty. That die represents the number of rounds before something decisive occurs, before the horde breaks through the door, or before the floor gives way. Sometimes the threat is clearly described, sometimes it is only implied, and sometimes player actions can expedite or hinder the countdown. The die is a tangible reminder that events are progressing. As it counts down, the narration continues and the tension intensifies. After using timers consistently across dozens of sessions, I have found they tend to fall into three distinct categories. Two of them are easy to remember because they align with a familiar framework: the carrot and the stick. First, there are what we call pushing timers. This is the stick. These incentivize movement through threat. Something is behind the party and closing in. For example, there is an overwhelming horde, a relentless hunter, or a collapsing structure. If the party delays, the threat catches up. Pressure from behind compels forward motion. In contrast, there are enticing timers, otherwise known as the carrot. These incentivize movement through reward. Something valuable lies ahead, but it will not remain indefinitely. For example, there is a beloved NPC in danger, critical intelligence is moments from destruction, or rare treasure is about to be lost. If the players act decisively, they gain something meaningful. Thinking in terms of carrot and stick makes these two types immediately memorable. The third category operates differently. Rather than pushing from behind or enticing from ahead, environmental timers alter the space itself. For example, poisonous fumes thicken or madness advances in measurable stages. The dungeon becomes progressively more hostile the longer the players remain within it. Time itself becomes the antagonist. Each type, in its own way, ensures that play remains purposeful and creative rather than passive. And as a general principle, it is often wise to favor the carrot over the stick. Being rewarded for decisive action feels empowering. Being punished for ordinary roleplay can feel arbitrary. So if you want dungeons to feel alive, consequential, and memorable, put a timer in them. If you have effective timer ideas from your own table, I would encourage you to share them in the comments below. If you found this useful, consider liking or subscribing. Otherwise, until next time, may God bless your fellowship, your stories, and your play.